The museum's going to reopen. It's going to be totally laid out differently than it was before. Before, Mrs. Frazetta had it with strictly the original oil paintings, 92 of them, and some small pen and inks, some watercolors. I'm going to set it up because I don't have access to all the originals. But I'm going to have it set up in chronological order with, basically, you're going to take a tour of his life when you leave the museum. You're going to see his early art when he was a young boy. I'm going to get into a lot of the movie ads that he did, record albums, basically a timeline of his artwork and the progression as his life progressed from when he started when he was like 2.5 years old. We'll have a lot of his personal things like his golf collection, his gun collection, camera collection. He was an enthusiast with cameras. He loved them. There'll be a lot of things that he's done when he was young are very brittle, and you can't leave the originals out for people to flip through the pages. So we'll have them programmed onto the computer, and they'll be able to turn the pages with their fingertip and things like that. So,
like those paintings I showed you when he was 8 years old, I think those are probably some of the best he's done just because he was a kid when he did them. And to think, you see my grandpa as an 8-year-old kid sitting there with some paints and doing those, it's incredible to think about. Not that his other work isn't amazing, because it is, but being a child and having that talent shows you, it's completely with him. A lot of hours being dedicated to getting it put together just right, chronological order, just so you can walk through his life and kind of experience it the way he did. We're going to have here is his personal collection.
Home movies, home silent movies. There's no sound back then. Videos didn't come out to the 70s, so you'll see his home movies playing. You'll see the intro to Fire and Ice, how they actually did the rotoscope. I had that set up now and things like that. So a lot more educational. I mean, everything about his career has pretty much been written through the years by somebody somehow, different pieces, and you can find it on the internet today. But nothing has access to who he is behind the scene. That's what the books entail about to some degree. Now the museum is really going to get very deep into that part of it.
He was never really allowed to come to the museum, mainly because he'd take paintings off the wall and then start redoing them, so he had to stay in the house. So it was like no one knew who he was. There's never anything on who he was, how he lived. I'm sure half the people in the world think he lived like a king, and it's completely opposite. As long as he had baseball, candy, and family, that's all he cared about. So this whole new, almost revisioning of the museum, where you get to see who he was as a kid, you get to see what he did, you get to see all of his possessions, his prized possessions. It's going to add a new kind of dimension to who he was as an artist and a person. Something no one's ever seen before unless they knew my grandfather personally. It's the closest you'll ever be to meeting him now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll learn who he was, how he lived, and you'll get a whole different side to him. And as soon as you walk out, you'll feel like he's a totally different person. You feel like you know him in a completely different way.
Well, hopefully next April we'll have it reopened. Hopefully it'll be all set up by then. I'm sure it will. And then we'll have a big grand opening like we did back in 2000 here, probably late in the summer, early fall.
It'll be the Facebook fan page. Anything I hear, it'll be out as soon as I get the go-ahead for it. I mean, I like to keep everybody as updated as I possibly can. So it'll be there to look for it. San Diego, we'll have them there. The Lexicon next year, I'm sure. Things like that. We're not going to be going all across the country bringing them because we don't want anything to happen to them en route and things like that. And to keep them kind of at home gives more of a, that kind of feeling to the paintings, like kind of like an embodiment that everything's still here.